My wife became a doctor, and celebrated by filing for divorce the same day. I signed without argument, and vanished completely. She laughed with her colleagues about dead weight. Never imagining I meant it when I left, 3 years later, she located me through hospital records. Finding 200 missed calls and texts I'd ignored. Part 2, she ended up taking on 2 roommates just to make ends meet. Sharing the space, she'd been so excited to have all to herself. Those roommates, according to my source, were not impressed when they discovered she'd divorced her husband immediately after graduation. Especially when they realized they were essentially subsidizing the lifestyle she planned to fund with doctor money that wasn't materializing as quickly as expected. Her work schedule was brutal: 80-hour weeks, overnight shifts. Being on call during weekends, she'd planned to enjoy her newfound freedom. The social life she'd envisioned as a successful, single doctor turned into catching naps between shifts and living on hospital cafeteria food and energy drinks. Meanwhile, I was thriving. The construction company I joined had promoted me to senior project manager. My salary had increased significantly, and I was handling some of the biggest commercial projects in Portland. I bought a small house with a decent yard. Nothing fancy, but completely mine. No shared mortgage payments. No joint financial planning. No asking permission for purchases. The hiking group had become a core part of my social circle. Every weekend, rain or shine, we explored different trails around Oregon and Washington. I was in the best shape of my life. Had a solid group of friends. And felt genuinely content for the first time in years. The graphic designer I'd met at the bookstore had become something more serious. We'd been together for over a year, taking things slow and steady. She appreciated that I wasn't rushing into anything given my recent divorce. What she didn't know was how refreshing it is to be with someone who contributed equally to our relationship, instead of treating me like a financial support system. She had her own house, her own car, her own savings account. When we went out to dinner, she insisted on splitting the bill. When I cooked dinner at my place, she brought wine and dessert. When she cooked at hers, I handled cleanup and brought flowers. Everything felt balanced and reciprocal. But back to my ex-wife's situation. The breaking point for her apparently came during her second year of residency. She'd been working a particularly brutal schedule when her car broke down. Major engine problems that would cost more to fix than the car was worth. In the past, this would have been my problem to solve. I'd have figured out the financing, negotiated with mechanics, maybe even borrowed money from family if necessary. Now she was facing it alone with maxed out credit cards and no savings. She ended up taking public transportation for 3 months before finally qualifying for a loan on a used car with payments that ate up a significant chunk of her already tight budget. The whole experience apparently triggered some kind of awakening about what she'd lost when she discarded her dead weight. That's when the real searching began. First, she tried social media, but I deleted all my old accounts and never created new ones under my real name. Then she contacted every mutual friend we'd had. But most of them had chosen sides after the divorce, and her side wasn't winning. She hired a private investigator after 2 years of failed searching. Even paid him a $1,000 retainer from money she couldn't afford to spend. He found old addresses, previous employers. Even tracked down family members who wouldn't tell him anything useful. The breakthrough came when she abused her access to medical databases during her 3rd year of residency. She'd somehow gotten the idea to search hospital employment records across multiple states, looking for my name in construction-related job descriptions. Apparently she figured I'd eventually need medical care somewhere. And if I kept the same type of job, she might find a trail. It was a long shot that shouldn't have worked. But it did. A routine physical I'd gotten through my employer's health insurance program had created a record that showed up in her search. The hospital was in Portland, Oregon. And the employment listed was with a major construction firm. She'd found me. After 3 years of searching, she finally had a general location and enough information to track me down completely. What she didn't know was that the man she was looking for had evolved far beyond the person she'd discarded in that graduation parking lot. I wasn't the same guy who'd worked double shifts to pay her tuition. I wasn't the same man who'd accepted being called dead weight and helpful. I was someone who'd built an entirely new life without her in it. Someone who'd proven that her assessment of my value had been completely wrong. Someone who'd moved on so completely that her name rarely crossed my mind anymore. She was about to discover that when you throw away something valuable, you don't get to decide 3 years later that you want it back. The call started on a Tuesday morning in March. My phone showed 17 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. Then the texts began flooding in. I know you're getting these messages. We need to talk about what happened. I made a mistake and I want to fix it. Please just call me back. I deleted each message without reading past the preview. After 3 years of complete silence, I wasn't interested in whatever crisis had suddenly made her remember my existence. The calls continued for 2 weeks. Different numbers now. Wow, Probably borrowed phones from colleagues or friends. I blocked each one as soon as I identified the pattern. 17 calls Tuesday, 23 on Wednesday, 31 on Thursday. She was escalating. Getting more desperate with each day of silence. Then she got creative. My work phone rang on a Friday afternoon. I was on site reviewing blueprints when the receptionist from our main office called. "Hey, there's a woman here claiming to be your wife. Says there's a family emergency, and she needs to speak with you immediately." "What does she look like?" The receptionist described her perfectly. My ex-wife had somehow found my employer and driven to Portland. She was sitting in our lobby right now. Probably spinning some story about urgent medical news, or family crisis. "Tell her you couldn't reach me. And that I'm out of state on a project for the next 2 weeks. Take her contact information. And let her know someone will call her back." Got it. Should I actually call her back? No. An hour later my supervisor called with an update. She'd waited in the lobby for 3 hours, asking repeatedly if I'd returned any calls, or shown up at different job sites. When it became clear I wasn't coming, she'd left her number and a handwritten note. What did the note say? Something about how you two need to discuss your future together. She seemed pretty upset when she realized we weren't going to help her track you down. "Thanks for handling that professionally." "No problem, we get crazy ex-wives sometimes. I'll flag her information in case she comes back." She didn't come back to the office. But she found other ways to make her presence known. She'd apparently spent the weekend driving around Portland, looking for my truck in apartment complexes and restaurant parking lots. One of my hiking buddies called Sunday evening to let me know. A woman matching her description had approached him at a coffee shop, claiming to be looking for her arranged husband, and showing him a photo on her phone. Dude, I didn't tell her anything, but she seemed really determined. Said she'd been searching for 3 years. "Thanks for the heads up. If she approaches you again, you've never heard of me." Copy that. Monday brought a new strategy. She'd figured out that I lived somewhere in Portland, and decided to blanket the city with her search. She posted on neighborhood Facebook groups, Nextdoor apps, even Craigslist missed connections. All with the same basic message. "Looking for my husband, we lost touch after my medical residency. Please help me reconnect." My graphic designer girlfriend showed me one of the posts Tuesday evening. We were cooking dinner at my place when she pulled up Facebook on her phone. This is weird. Some woman is posting in all the Portland groups looking for her husband. She's using a photo that looks like it was taken years ago. And the whole thing sounds desperate. I looked at the post. Sure enough, it was a photo of me from our marriage. Probably taken during some dinner out that I'd forgotten about. The caption read, "Like something from a missed connections, ad full of regret and promises to make things right." Sounds like someone who doesn't understand that some bridges can't be rebuilt once they're burned.